We reach out to someone for support. We reach out to someone to speak to. And then what happens? Most of the time, when we speak to that thing, we feel better. We speak to that person, we feel better. We share that thing, we feel better. Why is that the case? So often when we speak to someone else and they're holding us in their presence and we get to speak about the thing that's causing us distraction, causing us pain, causing us illusion, we move beyond that illusion because the divine mirror that they are helps us see the divine that we are through the act of speaking, through the act of being seen and received. Welcome, beautiful souls, to season 2 of the Cosmic Love Antenna with your host, Harrison Ma. I invite you on a mystical voyage from the intellect to the soul, delving deep into the mysteries of love's spiritual essence and its unfolding. This podcast celebrates the peeling back of heart layers, revealing profound lessons, interviews with spiritual seekers, and practices to open your heart to love's infinite wisdom. Good morning, evening, afternoon, magical beings. Welcome back to the Cosmic Love Antenna and another solo-sode with your host, Harrison. Today is part 5 of my Manifest New Love, Romance, Tribe, and Friends series done through the Chakra lens. Today's theme and chakra that we'll be hitting on is the throat chakra. For people tuning in for the first time, this is a journey that I've been taking people through to help you practically manifest new love into your life. Using the chakra system, giving you tools, giving you insights, giving you education and understanding around how you can spiritually, energetically, emotionally start to manifest the love that you deserve. I'd recommend, if you're tuning in for the first time today, go back and listen to the other parts of this series. I'll put them in the show notes if you're listening on the podcast player, but stick around to the end so you can soak up all the little juicy pieces and tips. If you are listening on the podcast player today, please make sure you share this out with a friend, a family member, a lover, so you can already start manifesting the love that you want. And if you have comments and questions and feedback today, there's 2 ways that you can add that into the chat. Firstly, you can leave it over on Spotify and Apple. That helps me build new episodes. And if you're joining live today on Facebook or YouTube, leave your comments and questions as we flow. And as always, I'll add you in to the chat as we go. All right. With all the foundations set, as always, let's get into our topic. I have so much to share and aiming to make this a shorter episode, as always. I want to go over the 3 fundamental manifesting laws that I have in each of the episodes thus far, just to really set the foundation and to get your heart beating to the manifesting drum. There are 3 laws to manifesting new love. They are: be that which you want to see, be the love that you wish to see in the external world. Number 2 is you are not a soul in a body, but you are a body in a soul, meaning that you are so much bigger than you physically can see. Your energetic, spiritual body is beyond the current 3D limitations, which is very important when we want to manifest. And rule number 3 is there is nothing outside of you. When you go deep into your heart to manifest the new romance, tribe, friends that you want, it's important to understand that the consciousness that you're made of is all that there is everything that exists. So the way to the love that you desire is going deeper into the consciousness that is everything, which is simultaneously within you. So those are our 3 laws. And with that, we're going to get into all things throat chakra now. These themes are in reference to the throat chakra, and you can use these understandings, these lessons, these practices that I'm going to be explaining here to manifest the love that you deserve. Right? And I'll just quickly illuminate why chakra system can be so powerful for really starting to implement new tools and practices into your life is because you are a spiritual being having a human experience that is interacting with life through emotion, through feeling, through energy at the end of the day, energy and frequency. And your chakra system, in my opinion, is the main framework and structure that is within you and around you and many other places, but let's just keep it simple, is the main framework that you can get specific and nuanced around to gain the things that you want to gain. In this case, new love. So if it wasn't obvious thus far in this series, that is really why we can really apply so many tips and practices, because it is in the nuance that true wisdom can be taken out of. True wisdom, true teachings and understanding comes in the nuance of our specific, in this case, chakra lens that we're using. Okay, so getting onto the throat chakra, the first theme here with manifesting new love through the throat lens is your ability to express and more specifically release stories of limitation that are within the words that you share. Releasing and becoming aware of the stories of limitation that are within the words that you share. I did an episode on the show that I'll also put in the show notes on the idea of word magic. And put simply, word magic is the idea and concept and very real world phenomenon of how our words that we consciously decide to speak create the reality in which we see. Right? It's obviously not the only way that we create our reality, but the words that we speak play a very big role. So one of the first ways that you can use the throat center to manifest the love that you want is really starting to become conscious around how you are speaking, not just to the external world, to your current relationships, to current dynamics, but also how you're speaking to yourself. Right? What are the current stories that you're playing over and over? I'm not good enough. I don't deserve to be loved. I will continue to be in abusive relationships. I am deserving of this rejection. You know, all these, I'm not in a state where I can be in a divine relationship. Whatever the story is that you're playing, we all have them. It's starting to become conscious of them, starting to observe and take the action needed to release the word magic that is creating a reality that doesn't serve you. Because we're always creating. The question is the reality that we're creating favorable to us? And one of the first places we can start to see this is in the words that we speak. So take your magic back, take your creation energy back, and speak words of validation, speak words of affirmation, speak words of love. Again, not just to other people, but to yourself. So that's the lens here, practice tip, understanding number one. And remembering, the last thing I'll say here before we move on, remembering if you wish to have a romantic partner, a tribe, a friendship that is consisting of healthy expression, loving affirmation, receiving words of devotion, then the first way you start to do that is to be an example of what that looks like. Are you that sort of person? Because if you're not, then of course you'll attract someone that is the same as you. Okay, next up here, Welcome, Christy. I see you there in the Facebook chat. Again, if you're joining live today, if any comments, questions come up, drop them in as we flow. I'd love to add you in. Next throat chakra practice here for manifesting new love is speaking without reference to the past. Speaking without reference to the past with an open heart unconditionally. What do I mean by this? I've noticed in my relationships that it's very easy to speak to someone through the current perception of my history with them. The biggest example of this is our family members. We walk into a room, we see our dad, our mum, our sister, our brother, and even before we start to speak, we are triggered, we are impacted by our past with them, whether it be positive or negative, abusive or non-abusive, painful or non-painful. We are impacted by our history with them, and then that history impacts the words that we then decide to speak. This is so important to understand, because obviously if I've had, let's just use a very specific example. Let's say I walk into a room with my mum, and last week or last month or last year, we had a very deep and hurtful argument or deep and hurtful situation, interaction. And I haven't released from that. I haven't healed from that. I haven't acknowledged and felt that fully. Obviously, that's going to be triggered and in either my conscious or most likely unconscious awareness when I go to speak to her again. So what is the solution here? How do we move through this? Well, the solution here is realizing that we have a choice to speak to people with an open heart. We have a choice to bring our presence to a relationship conversation and stay within that presence within the conversation that happens. I can speak to you without allowing myself to be impacted by the stories that we share together. I can speak to you with an open heart, not in my mind, not in my trauma, my abuse, my pain, my past history, and speak to you fully, mindfully present. This is powerful. This does many things, but within the context of today's chat, this allows deeper layers of love to flower. This allows deeper layers of love to blossom. Because I'll be very clear with my words. Most of us, myself included, are placing perceptions and stories and belief systems on the people that we love that are incorrect. We're placing stories and perceptions that not only are not real for us, but are also not real for them. So we're stuck in all these mind games, unable to access the love that's there already. So summarizing this, the key here is stepping in with an open heart, stepping in with presence, stepping in with mindfulness, dropping into the body, noticing our breath, and then speaking. Catching ourselves when a story comes up, catching ourselves when an illusion of a past interaction that needs to be acknowledged, but in this moment of conversation, doesn't need to inhibit the exchange of love. And we can do the same thing. So on the flip side of this coin, not only can we speak with presence, but we can listen with presence. We can listen without reference to the past. We can fully be there with the person without getting lost in not just past thoughts, past stories, past pains, but also future thoughts, future stories. How many of you listening have been in a conversation with someone and you've been speaking to them and you can see that they're not there? You can see that they're off in some distant future, some distant experience, not only not listening to you, but totally lost in the future happening. How does that feel? I know when I answer that question, I feel disconnected. My heart feels closed, right? So again, this is the flip side of it. We can learn to listen with presence, be fully, openly, actively present and receive the person speaking. Remembering that if we do this, this becomes the love that we attract. This becomes the blueprint of the kind of people we have in our life. All right, next up here, continuing with this speaking and listening, another tool and practice, understanding to manifest new love through the throat chakra, is learning to balance between listening and speaking. The balance between listening and speaking with an empathetic heart. What am I talking about? What does this mean? The throat chakra, like all of the energy centers, has the extreme, has the overemphasized, the underemphasized, and the balanced state. The balanced state of the throat chakra is a individual that stands true in their words and speaks the thing that needs to be spoken, and simultaneously can understand when it's time to listen and receive and not speak. And this is something we can all learn to do. I ask you again, the beautiful listener, how many times have you been in a conversation where the person just continues, does not stop, continues to speak as if there will never be an end? There is no exit. There is just continual expression. And most of the time, this is because the person is excited and open and happy to share their love with you. There's no taking any negativity onto this. But what is missing in that instance is an empathetic heart. An empathetic heart for what? Empathetic heart for the other person. For the other person that's listening and receiving, but may also want to speak, may also want to share, may also want to react. On the other end of the scale, you may find yourself in a situation where either yourself or you're with someone that isn't able to step into their speaking ability to express the thing that needs to be spoken because they don't feel safe. They don't feel heard enough. They don't feel ready. They don't feel in the presence of someone that can hold them to take that first step. So this is what we can learn to embody: the balanced throat chakra, the balanced speaking and listening. I like to refer to it as a dance. It's a dance between the masculine and feminine representation of the speaking itself. The going out, knowing when it's ready to speak and share, and then the feminine going in, knowing when we're ready to receive, to listen, to feel. And this becomes something we can all learn to hone and become a superpower that we can share with those that we wish to share our magic, our words of love with. All right, next up. Next little practice here for manifesting new love through the throat chakra is understanding the difference between divine truth and ego truth. Speaking divine truth versus ego truth. We are a magical spiritual being having a human experience. And a part of that dynamic is that we are two sides of one coin. One side is your open channel that connects you to divine source, so you can open to this and start to speak divine truth. And simultaneously, you're also a very beautifully messy human being that often speaks from ego stories, ego limitations, ego pains, etc., things we've talked about already. What we can learn to do is differentiate between the two. Differentiate when we are speaking divine truth that is moving through us, that we often receive intuitively and then share, versus ego truth that is coming from a wound, a pain, a trigger, a reaction in the moment. Another way you could describe this is speaking from a place of reaction versus speaking from a space of intuitive, open, channeled response. Another way to articulate this and give an example is the difference between speaking knowing that comes from the mind, knowing that comes from the things that you've learnt in this human lifetime, versus speaking knowing, divine knowing, the knowing that is beyond the things that the mind intellectually obtains, speaking divine knowing from a space that we all have access to, right? The collective unconscious that seems to come out of nowhere. So if we can learn to differentiate these two, differentiate the small knowing versus the large knowing, or the divine truth versus the ego truth, then this then creates the relationships that we want. Like going back to our first point, our words create our reality. So if the words that we're speaking are divine truth, or the words that we're speaking are from ego wounds, ego stories, ego limitations, this then becomes the reality that we create. So learning to distinguish between what you are sharing. So for example, I can use me in this moment as I speak to you. I am shifting between both, right? As I share with you here in this moment, there is 90% speaking from a space of the big knowing, speaking from a space of not really going into my brain to think about all the things that I have intellectually obtained, but just allowing myself to be open and to speak the things that are coming through me with ease, right? With no fear, with love. But then 10% of the time, looking at my notes that I have and going back to things that I've intellectually learned that add some bit of structure and the mind knowing, because both, we need both. But it's understanding what is of the highest good in the moment. Okay. Last up here today. Last little practice for manifesting love through the throat chakra. And this is a big topic, and I'm going to try and keep it concise. Inner child wounds. Understanding the inner child wounds that can come up through our throat chakra that inhibit our ability to manifest love. And I'm going to speak about a couple here, because again, if we can bring conscious awareness to these wounds, these pains, these illusions, then we can release them and manifest love that reflects the healing, the moving on from them. So a common inner child wound that we have picked up in our childhood that expresses through the voice when we're looking to create relationships that we want is the story and the limitation of, whenever I speak, I'm not heard. Whenever I speak, I'm not heard. Right? This often comes from maybe being abandoned and rejected as a child, maybe being left out. and left out to cry, maybe, many different origins. But the story of whenever I speak, I'm not heard, right? We must, one, acknowledge, and two, release. Because fundamentally, you deserve to be heard. And whenever that story comes up, most likely in your current relationships, or maybe you're at business speaking in front of people, or maybe you're in front of a group of a tribe, a friendship group that you want to share your opinions around, that most likely comes up. So what we can learn to do is realize that at the end of the day, the only person that needs to hear us, the only person that needs to witness us at the deepest of levels is us. Whether people receive, whether people acknowledge, whether external people give us their affirmation or not, based off the words we speak, will never be in our control. And not only will it never be in our control, we are not dependent on it. So this is really a deep story and a inner child wound that we can learn to release, that will then impact the love that we're bringing in. Welcome, Sharon. I see you there, my beautiful friend. Thank you for joining. The next inner child wound here around the throat chakra and manifesting love is learning to ask for what you deserve without the fear of rejection. Learning to ask for what you deserve without the fear of rejection or the fear of abandonment. Most of us, myself included, do not use our throat chakra to interact with new love and manifest new love because we fear the words that we speak will lead to rejection. We fear that the words we speak will lead to abandonment. We fear that the words that we speak will lead to pain. So what we can learn to do to overcome this story is remembering that you deserve to ask for what you deserve. You deserve to ask for love. You deserve to ask for support. You deserve to ask for the need to be seen, the need to be acknowledged, the need to be witnessed. Whatever it is for you, whatever the momentary experience of, this is something I need right now. It doesn't matter what the story is behind it. This is something that in this moment I need. You deserve to ask that. And again, however it's taken, however it's received, however it is laid on top of by the other person or people in the vocal expression, that is their role. That is their responsibility. That is their part of the expression. But your role, your part, is to ask for the thing that you deserve to ask for. And that is your job complete. And it's funny, often, I've noticed this both personally and people I've worked with, often when just the speaking of the thing that we're asking for, just the speaking of the thing that we're looking to obtain, often that is enough in itself to be filled. Whether it's completed, whether it's acted upon by the other person or people, almost is inconsequential because we just needed to speak it. We just needed to express it. We just needed to give ourselves permission to ask for the love that we always deserved. It's a big one. Christy, you're affirming this. We do deserve it. Thank you for the reminder. You're welcome, my friend. So I'll wrap up today's little chat with the encouragement here of learning to manifest love in new ways by really flexing this throat center, by really learning to not just, I spoke a lot today about presence and being present with the words that you speak, but not just adding in presence to the words that you speak, but also dropping into your heart and speaking present words in the relationships that you currently have with love. Dropping out of everything that your mind is currently saying or fearing or worrying about or being anxious about. And speaking the thing with love. Because I'll share this from this perspective. The consciousness of love that you are is beyond words. It does not have a label that you can place on it. I could speak to you all day about all the different characteristics of the presence of love that you are, and none of it will be the full description of what it is, because these are just words. This is just a language that we've invented to describe the thing that is beyond description. So what am I saying here? What I'm saying here is when you are looking to manifest new love and you're using your words to do so, you're using your throat chakra to do so, we must learn to understand that the words, and I'm just going to say it for the fact that it is, do not matter. They often hold certain values, they often hold certain connotations, but at the deepest of levels, if you drop into your heart and then speak the thing that you are intuitively being guided to speak, the words that encapsulate that thing are secondary to what is expressed. Your consciousness of love will use the words as a container, will use the words as the image that I get is a boat to be channeled through you. So don't get stuck in, I don't sound right, I don't sound perfect, that's not the right thing to say, that's not the right word. None of that matters. What matters most is the loving intention behind and within the words that are shared. If you take anything away from this whole conversation today, it's that. Sharon, you're saying this is such a beautiful practice. I want to embody this, mind, body, and spirit. Well, Sharon, you do already, but yes, we all can. We all can learn to do this. And I'll say one more thing because it's got me going now. That feeling of injecting the love into our words. And I actually didn't speak on this today, and I'm going to share it here now because I forgot. And this is so important to understand. This is actually another little extra. This is a bonus practice here that I forgot to add. We also have to remember that the frequency, the consciousness of love that we wish to share with our expression, with our words, also exists in the silence between the words, also exists in the stillness between the words. Why is this important? Well, many reasons, but just one here in this moment. Many of us, again, have the limiting belief that if I'm not speaking, if I'm not filling this moment in time with words, then I am not being felt. I am not getting my message across. I am not expressing the thing that needs to be expressed. And this could not be further from the truth. Again, if your intention of love is there to express something on your heart, and you then express that with words and also add silence, moments of stillness, moments of non-words, then it also exists within those moments. So summarizing this, we do not need to speak words to share our expression. We do not need to speak words to share our loving intention to be felt. And this is a practice in itself to manifest new love in all the ways. Well, Sharon, you're asking, is this like holding your thoughts captive? Yes and no. Because actually what we can often learn to do is once we start speaking from this heart space, from this love consciousness more and more, what actually starts to happen is there are less thoughts going on. There are less thoughts happening. When you start to speak, this is what it means to be in flow, right? When you're in flow, and in this case, in this example, speaking love in flow, there is no thoughts. There is nothing to keep captive because your mind has momentarily taken the backstage, has momentarily stepped aside for your deeper presence of love to channel through the words in this example that you speak. And that does many things. But for a lot of us, that's an opportunity for us to actually be with ourselves fully, be with ourselves beyond what the current mind, thoughts, limiting beliefs, again, stories that always play, that always are happening. So expressing and using love to channel through our words, through our presence, also becomes an opportunity for us to move beyond any current limiting beliefs that we're getting stuck in. Right? Which is why when we speak to another person, I'll use an example here. Let's say that we've gotten stuck in a story of fear. We're stuck individually as a person. We're stuck in this story of fear about doing a certain thing. And then we reach out to someone for support. We reach out to someone to speak to. And then what happens? Most of the time, when we speak to that thing, we feel better. We speak to that person, we feel better. We share that thing, we feel better. Why is that the case? So often when we speak to someone else and they're holding us in their presence and we get to speak about the thing that's causing us distraction, causing us pain, causing us illusion, we move beyond that illusion because the divine mirror that they are helps us see the divine that we are through the act of speaking, through the act of being seen and received. Welcome, Ali. I see you there, my friend. Everyone's popping in. So I think I'll wrap it up there today, beautiful beings. The stream it's continuing to come, but I have to wrap it up here today. And it's funny because it shows a beautiful example of what I've been talking about. I'll say one final thing and then I have to go. Often when we open the stream for the divine presence of love to channel through us, through our words, it starts off, the image that I like to describe it is it starts off as a dripping tap, right? The drops of water are the divine consciousness channeling through us, through the words that we speak. And when we start to speak more, when we start to share more from our heart, that tap turns on more. That consciousness that comes through us comes through our words more. So funnily enough, when we allow ourselves to feel comfortable in a space to speak our love, the channel that we are widens. Because remember, one of the fundamental laws here is that we aren't a soul in a body. We are a body in a soul. And that soul's energetic field is far larger than what we think it is. So when we create the opportunity for the channel to move through us, it expands to what our real size is. And how big that actually is another episode for another day. So with that, beautiful souls, I thank you for joining me here today. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Camilla. I see you there. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Christy, for joining live, and everyone else. I hope this brought you value. As always today, please go take some inspired action between what you heard here today. If you joined late or you're listening on the podcast, go back and soak up some of the tips. Share this out with a friend, a lover, a family member that you think it can support. A reminder, if this is the sort of work you're looking to do and you want to go a bit deeper, definitely reach out to me, and I'll see if I have spaces in my mentoring and coaching slots. But regardless, I send you love. I send you light. Until next time, I'll see you again very soon. Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Cosmic Love Antenna with me, your host, Harrison. If you gained value or this episode hit your heart, please remember to share this out with a friend, a family member, or a lover. You can also leave your love over on Apple reviews and Spotify star feedback, and this helps me spread my frequency to more souls in need. Finally, if you want to connect with me deeper, want to reach out, interested in coaching, please follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn at Harrison Meagher, Meagher spelled Meagher. Sending you so much love.
Miles, are you ready to record our promo for Season 2 of the Wanna Bet podcast?
David, have you ever seen a grown man naked?
Miles, we're not here to quote lines from Airplane. We're here to tell people that Season 2 starts August 18th.
But I like Airplane.
I know you do, but Wanna Bet is a sports betting podcast. Each week we bet $1,000 on the NFL teams and games that we love.
Well, that sounds like fun.
It is fun. And last year you picked over 60% of your games correctly.
How'd you do?
We're not talking about that. We are telling people that they can find us every Friday. So no more movie quotes.
Roger.
Electricast.